G'day everyone, Lucas here from Alpha Forge. Today I'll be making a anvil from a railway track. I do these on the side as a side venture, revenue raiser, just to, I guess, be able to afford more more tools for the forging. I also make gas forges. I don't make the actual burner itself. I get them from, I get the people to get them from Gameco Artisan Supplies. But yeah, today we'll be making a railway track anvil, which they're great for start out blacksmiths and stuff like that. They're made of around 1040, so a relatively mild carbon steel, but they do actually have manganese in them. So the manganese, it work hardens, so the harder you hit the steel, the harder the anvil actually gets, which is absolutely great. And it's good to use old track for that exact reason, because obviously it's had, many ton worth of trains driving over it for many years. So yeah, enjoy the video. So firstly, we'll figure out where we want the horn. Usually I make the anvils around 500 mil, so half a meter. This is just under it, but that's just the amount of material I had. So what I end up doing is I make the horn come back about 150 mil and then have a 50 mil table. So that means 200 mil of it is taken up by the horn and table, and that gives you a foot, close to a foot long worth of material for pounding on. But that's not needed anyway. You only really use, 2 or 3 inches of the steel at a time. But so now what we'll do is we'll square those lines across. And then we want to figure out where the middle is. So this is about 65 mil. So what we'll do is we'll come in 30 mil from one side, 30 mil from the other, and we want to do this line back to the cheek here. So where the anvil rounds, you don't want to go right to the outside, you want to go to where it starts to round, just to give you that change between the horn and the rest of the anvil. It's not necessary, it's purely aesthetic. Okay, now on the side of it, what I usually do so that you've got a little bit of movement to get around the horn, I like to trim off a chunk of the end. Some better known blacksmiths will tell you it's best to have it right back, but because it is only a railway track, there's only so much that you really want to take back before there's not going to be enough support. So I'm going to bring it back about 100 mil. So then I'll cut off this section here. And then on the underside, I'll bring the horn back 150, just as and then bring this up to meet in there. And you want to try and sort of, when you grind this, you want to try and ground that out. You want to try and ground this bit here out round. If you have it too sharp, it'll end up being a weak spot for it to crack across, which unfortunately I have seen a few people that they've put all the hours into grinding this thing out, then unfortunately it snapped, which has just been absolutely horrific for them. And then on the back here, we'll got the top come back 10, and then we'll trim that down like that. So that means that if we have a hardy hole here or something like that, the hardy hole can, so if we have a hardy hole, it can go down and there won't be material there stopping it. Probably the best thing we can do. Now, I used to do this with a silly little 4-inch grinder. Took hours and many cutting wheels. But after I made a few of these, I could upscale and got myself a 9-inch grinder. So I'm going to show you me cutting it all out and shaping it with a 9-inch. And then once I've done all the profiling with the 9-inch, I'll change the 4-inch for the smaller details. So cutting, shaping, and grinding's all done. I went ahead and made a second anvil, because I'll do one with just a pritchel hole, and the other one with a hardy and a pritchel, just so you can see the different things that you can do with the holes for the anvil. Another thing you could do if you wanted to add a bit of extra mass, or to have a wider face on here, is you can weld on a piece of forklift time, which is what I did with my anvil. It turned a 15-20 kilo anvil into a 35 kilo anvil, just because obviously now it has more mass, it has a wider surface that you can work on. So each one of these, roughly about 2 hours worth of grinding with the 9-inch and the 4-inch, but when I did it with the 4-inch solely, it was about 8 hours for the one. So using 9 inches significantly decreased the amount of time that it takes me to do that. So we'll do these hardy pritchel holes. Loud. So we've got, what do we got, about 6. So 60 mil, we can come back before we hit something. So we only really want to bring the hardy. I'll do this one with just the pritchel. So I'll do the pritchel 30 mil in. And in the center, so your pritchel hole, pretty well your pritchel is just a bar that comes up through the hole, curls around, and you can use it as like a clamp to clamp your piece of steel to your anvil, so it works as like a third hand. It helps, but a lot of people don't even know what it's for. Okay, now the hardy hole. Just so, because we'll do the pritchel here, square hardy here. So we'll bring the bottom of the hardy up. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll still do it 30. And I'll be using a 13 mil drill bit. Here's the center, so I'll go 6.5 either side, 6.5. Okay, and now the pritchel, I will do 20 mil in. 20 mil in. So in this, because it's only got the pritchel, we'll do it as a 13 mil. This one we'll just do as an 8 mil hole. So we're going to need to drill it out with pilot drills first. So firstly we'll center punch all the holes we'll be drilling. Then we will step it up in drill sizes. This one over here, it is going to be a pain, because what you've got to do, actually I'll just finish these mark outs. Just square it up. So
with the hardy hole, to get a square hole, it's an absolute pain. Pretty well what you've got to do is you've got to drill 5 holes like you see on a die. And then, so you drill 5mm holes, and then the middle hole you drill out to the biggest size you can to try and join those, join the 5 holes up, and then you hand file. It is tedious and a mess, but it means that where I charge $200 for one of these, I've got to charge $280 for these, because you end up spending about 4 or 5 hours hand filing, which only really equates to about $10 to $15 an hour. I can't really be bothered doing the math right now, but it's just very tedious. So some people are like, oh, why are they extra $80 for just a square hole? Simply, it is a pain to do. It is very annoying and a lot of work. So a lot of people just completely skip out on it. What I did with my anvil is I actually cut out a huge hole and then welded in a piece of 25mm square tubing and welded that into the hole on top, so I didn't even need to bother about doing that. But with these, because they're small, you can't really fit in that 25mm piece of tubing, so it's unfortunately hand filing. So now we'll go on to the punching and drilling. I won't bother about doing the punching stage. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll set you up on the drill press to show you all the drilling that's being done. So the main thing to remember is to use plenty of lubricant for your drill bits, and also to make sure that you're using high carbon steel cutting drill bits, because quite often people just use normal steel or even wooden drill bits for this, and that just simply won't work. So, and always have your drill running on a slightly lower speed, otherwise you don't stand a chance. So now we've stepped up in size. Now we are going from the 3mm drill bit to the 5mm drill bit. Which sometimes will bind up like that, but that's fine. It's usually just as it goes through that last little bit. Gotta go slower. Like that. So now we'll go through and re-drill out all of the other holes and then go from there. So we've got our drills drilled out. So this one has just the single pritcher hole down there. It's just a 13mm hole, pretty standard. So then this one here, it's got an 8mm pritcher, but probably more so used for punching out holes in steel if you were to do, little fine intricate work. And then the hardy hole. So at the moment it kind of looks a bit like a mess. So what I'm going to need to do is take a square bastard file and file out the corners where those holes are. It's easy enough to square this up just with the file. So I used to just use a standard file, but Hart, they've actually got these interchangeable handles which are awesome because it makes things so much easier. So now it's like this. So you can get a lot more leverage, get better cutting. Make sure that you do use some lubricant when you're filing out the hole. It'll save your file, make it last a lot longer, give it a bit of extra life. So now here we go into the filing section. Awesome, so that time I must have lined the holes up a lot better for drilling out the hardy, because this time instead of it taking about 2 hours, which it usually does to file the hardy, this one only took me about 45 minutes to get it nice and square. So a bit of anatomy. So this is the heel of the anvil, then you got your pritchel and hardy hole. This is the face, then you've got the table, the horn, the waist, and the feet. It's a little bit funnier on these railway anvils because obviously it's a piece of railway track instead of your standard anvil, which the feet sort of are only about from here to here worth. But yeah, so next thing all I've got to do is engrave AWF onto the heel here of the anvil, Alpha Will Forge, and then the year that I manufactured it, so 2019 for these ones. And then they're all good to go. So last thing I like to do is just grab some canola oil or whatever oil you have on hand and And just give it a wipe over. You don't really need to do this very often. It's just so that when it's not in use, it'll get it'll be nice and rust protected. It's less likely to rust because it's got that coating of oil on it. I mean, this is true for most metal stuff, whether it be anvils or leg vices, whatever. It's always good to keep them nice and oiled up so that they don't rust and then seize and what have you. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.